Hi, this is Pat with Racket String Tips, and we have Brad on the other line today again. And we have some good stuff today that we wanted to share with everybody. And we're going to go a little bit about, how it's been having the Baiardo for the last couple months. I think we both have had one now for a couple months. And so we're going to kind of go over that, what we like, what we, maybe some challenges or what we don't like about it. Then a couple other tips that we have in mind as well. Talk a little bit about squash rackets. That's kind of new. We primarily are racket stringers, but I think we wanted to kind of expand that a little bit. I mean, I've strung badminton, maybe you have too, I don't know, but every sport, every type of racket has its nuances, and so it's a whole new art. So sometimes it's also a way to for more profits and just be able to expand your current business and stuff. But I think first off, let's get into the Baiardo. I mean, we've both had that machine for a couple months, and I've talked about, I've strung on a Baiardo at tournaments, because that's a tournament grade machine that's at many of the tournaments, especially when Wilson or Luxilon were representing the stringing team. And then in Europe, other teams use it as well. It's a pretty standard machine. It's been around now for 10, 12 years, maybe 13 years. It seems to, it's obviously gone through some changes, and they've upgraded some things, and there's also Baiardo Lite and so forth, but we both have the standard Baiardo machine. And so we can talk a little bit about that, like what you like, what are some of the challenge. So I'll let you start with that, Brad.
Yeah, so well, first of all, I love it. All right, let's start there. There are some things that I like on previous machines that this machine doesn't have. I started stringing on a basic $100 machine 35 years ago. And then shortly after, my father got us one of those Echelon kind of stand up with a hand crank. And I strung on that for 20 years, which I thought was great. It was easy. And then a couple of years ago, got a Gamma Progression ELS machine, which I really liked quite a bit. I put it on a stand, and it had some nice features. The calibration feature was nice. It had a little button right on the, right next to where all the buttons are. It had a little button you can push in, and it tells you how many rackets you strung. I thought that was a neat feature. If I wanted to tie the knot, it had a 5% or 10%, which was really, really good. If I wanted to tighten it a little bit, the knot string. So that was good. It had a pre-stretch button that was really nice. So I like that. And then when I got the Wilson Baiardo, and I started being able to customize the way it tilts to you, the way it raises up to you, and set that. The first one or two rackets, I didn't know if I was going to like it yet. And now I absolutely love it. It is awesome. And, you've got to press the main string icon to get it to set the way you want it for the mains. And then when you get to the crosses, you've got to press the cross string. Now you can keep stringing without pressing that button. It doesn't make a difference. But sometimes I'll forget because I'm just not used to it. So the fourth string in, I'll be like, wait a minute, I haven't pressed the button yet. And then it makes that subtle tweak, and it's just so nice. It's just, it feels ergonomically perfect.
Yeah, because if you watch stringers, predominantly, stringing rackets and stuff, they're always hunched over kind of a little bit. They're always leaning over, right? Their back is always bent. And so this was kind of a way for you, on the mains, you want it to be a little bit more flat, right? You want it to be lower. But then on the crosses, you want to be a little bit closer to it and so forth. And that way you don't have to lean as much. So yeah, it's kind of great, how the ergonomics of the, it's an ergonomic system, hydraulic system, electronic system.
Yeah, now this machine, it doesn't tell you how many rackets you've strung, but it tells you how many pulls you've had, which is probably more accurate, because the Gamma machine is just kind of guessing. It doesn't know for sure, but this one tells you the actual pulls. So that's a really good gauge to be able to tell. And this one, you have to go into the settings to set when you pull the gut stretching, you set, you have to, it's not, but it lets you could do 7% stretch. You could do 22, 21%. So it's not 5 or 10. You can just do whatever it is you want.
Yeah, it's so zero. Kind of nice. It's zero. Yeah, I actually have the manual here in front of me that I had to print mine out when I got the machine, and I think you did too. my machine didn't come with one. I don't think they
Right.
come with them anymore. They make, you know,
Yeah.
maybe they're
You
just
print it out.
they're trying to save trees or whatever. So yeah, I have the manual here and stuff. So it is 0 to 30% that you can pre-stretch at.
Pre-stretch.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's really good. And you know, of course, all these machines, they do have kilograms and pounds as well, so you can adjust that.
That's another thing today that I noticed, and just to tell you this, when you do the calibration, so today I tested the calibration, it automatically defaults to kilos. So the way the calibration test works is it first tests 22 pounds, then 44 pounds, then 66 pounds, then 88 pounds. Well, if you set it, when it pops up, it's going to be in kilos, whatever 22 pounds is in kilos. And you press a button and it takes it to pounds. Then when it automatically goes up to 44 pounds, it re-puts it back to kilos. So you got to press that button again to put it to pounds. Then when it goes up to 66, it gives it to you in kilos. You just have to press that button to put it in pounds. So not a big deal, but it's just one time I pressed the wrong button, and so I had to start over. Not a major deal, but
yeah, and it's nice because you can also set 2 different tensions, right, for the mains and the crosses as well. And you can like, you know, have it set so that you can just push the crosses or the mains, and it has a preset tension in there. So if you're adjusting the tension by 4 pounds, 6 pounds, or whatever, you can program that in as well. You know, and then of course you can also do that with the tie off knot.
yeah.
You put in whatever percentage you want, and which is nice because always like having to adjust the tension button, you know, when you want to add a few pounds is a pain. I think most electronic machines now have a tension button on it, but
Yeah, I think they do too.
Yeah,
You know,
most of them have that because it's kind of a pain otherwise if you don't. So yeah, so those are some features, and then there's a couple different stringing modes, right? Whether you have it set up for you specifically, or based on your height and based on everything that you like. You know, you put your name in there, and everything's touch screen, which makes it really nice. And then that way, every time you get to your machine, you can just, you know, use that setting. Or if you just want to use the manual setting, meaning that you have to set everything for that specific stringing, you can do that as well. And then yeah, you can, you know, you could put in different if there's going to be different people using the machine, like if it's at a club or if it's at a shop or something like that, you can set your preferences for you individually. And then you were talking a little bit about the calibration, checking the calibration. You know, there's a system in there for that specifically, so you can make sure it's accurate. And then, you know, so what do you use, Brad, for calibrating, for checking your calibration?
So what I use is the Calibrator tennis head 2200, which looks like looks like this.
Right. And then you have to put a string on both ends, and then that's what you put on your clamp, and then you pull it through the on the Diablo.
Exactly. Right. And I need to get stronger strings. I've got a polyester here, and sometimes it snaps. I need to order some Kevlar. But what I did today, because one of the pulls is 88 pounds, it pulls. So today I put some tubing. It's probably hard to see, but there's tubing.
Yeah, I see the tubing.
And then I just put the string through the tubing, and that helps protect it because, you know, it's a round piece of metal that's not hard to cut through the string there. So I would recommend
I think right, and I think Herb, you know, Herb, who we've had on the channel a few times as well, he says that he's actually had one of these metal clips break on him.
Oh.
It actually had break and came apart, so he figured out a way to secure it a little bit better, weld it or put a new piece on or whatever. But yeah, I mean, because we're pulling them at pretty tight tensions, right? Because you said on yours,
88 pounds.
88 pounds, because you're doing it at different tensions to make sure it's accurate at all different tensions and so forth. I mean, it's a great machine in the sense that, you know, it's electronic and it's a pretty standard one. Yeah, I would definitely Kevlar. I haven't used, because I just recently got this. I wanted to get some Kevlar strings, because polyester strings, you know, maybe after you pull it 5 or 6 times, a lot of the elasticity is probably out of the string and it's not going to pull a whole lot more. But just to keep that part out of it, I don't want to have any the string move, and so Kevlar's the best, I think, for not being, you know, moving.
Yeah.
contributing to the maybe the variance.
Yeah, and whatever I do, and I'll have to ask Herb, and I'll have to ask you when you do this. Whenever I use this, it just automatically seems to turn upside down on me. So I have to get down in a squat position to read the the poundage. But one thing to remember is when you set this up on the clamp and put a starting clamp behind it, and then put it through the Diablo and through the tension head. Remember to reset it back to 0, because sometimes just setting that up will add some poundage on there. So click the button to make sure it says 0 before you hit the tensioner. So that's a good thing to remember.
Oh yeah, good point. And why, or how often do you use that little device there? I mean, how often do you check your calibration?
Probably not often enough, but I try to remember it every 50 to 100 rackets or so, just to get in there. This machine, from what I've read, does a great job, and it was within a pound on every single one today, except the 88 pounds was like 1.5 pounds off. And the
No,
way
so that's like every day. That's like every day for you, huh? You're stringing about 100
yeah,
rackets.
that's Herb. That's
Yeah,
Herb. That's not
know,
me. Yeah, no, if I'm 1.5 a day, that's
yeah.
good.
And I think if you move your machine, if you're moving your machine around a lot, or you're you know, fidgeting with it a lot, or things like that, that it might also be a good time just to check it. You know, maybe just get in the habit of maybe you know, once a month or something at the beginning of the month, just check the calibration of it. It just takes a few minutes. I know it just keeps things, I think, clean that way, and you don't start losing a little bit of tension, and then, you know, you're stringing rackets along the way, and then it starts to, like, all of a sudden one day you're like, wow, I'm 4 pounds off.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, one thing, excuse me, I'm sorry. One thing that helps me stay in check is that I have a lot of the same clients. And every time I pull a racket off the machine after I string it, I have an app that listens to the pitch and the harmonics, and it gives me the dynamic tension reading. So I know that if that was going to be a couple pounds off of previous rackets that I've done, that would make me immediately go to check the tension calibration on the machine. So, but it is a good idea. And one thing I had a slight period of frustration today for about a minute, because when I was trying to lock the base clamp after putting the string from the calibration head tuner into the clamp, the base wouldn't lock, it wouldn't hold, it wouldn't click. And so I started getting a little like, I'm trying to, like, what's going on here? I'm like, what am I missing a step here? And then I realized when you string a racket, you have to pull the clamp up like an inch or two. And so once I pulled it up, then it clicked, so you got to remember to pull it up a little bit.
Yeah. And so those are some things that I like about the machine, actually, is the automatic clamps, right?
Oh,
because you can use the automatic system, but I know that most of the manuals in machines that have those recommend that you secure the base and unsecure the base as the first step, and not use, not loosen the clamp at the string, so that you don't damage the string. But
right.
I mix it up, because if there's no tension on the clamp per se, I mean, meaning friction, or not friction, but if the string is not being forced a certain direction and the clamp is forcing it, then I'll release the clamp, as long as, I'll release it at the string, rather than opening up the base first, or
Gotcha.
pushing down on the base first. But sometimes I'll push down at the base first as well. So I mean, I just kind of I don't really have a systematic way of always doing something, because I want to use those. I mean, that's why they have the automatic clamps, so that you can quickly be stringing a racket and just drop it down. It releases and then you can move it to the next spot. So I mean, I like that feature in it. For me, as long as you keep the rails clean, keep them lubed, keep them moving smoothly. I love the the curvedness of it, so that you can reach the outer mains easily. The clamps aren't too large, because on some stringing machines the clamps are really wide,
bulky,
have a lot of teeth on it, and are just really wide and kind of awkward. These are I think it's was it 4 or 5
yeah, I think mine. There we go.
Yeah, I'm running out of words today. 4 or 5
5
teeth. Yeah, teeth.
5 teeth, but it's, you know, it's,
yeah, they're fairly close together. Yeah,
an inch and a quarter wide. I mean, it doesn't seem like much. There's not a lot of space.
And I like how you can adjust the clamps as you're going, and you don't have to use a little tool. My old Babolat star clamps, you know, you had to put a little awl in there, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Like, you know, you had to put an awl in there, and so it's nice to be able to adjust it as you're stringing. The turntable has a really good lock on it. I really like that too. I use that feature a lot. I mean, you can either use it like a, you know, as a secure brake, meaning that, you know, especially if you're checking your calibration, or you're stringing like an like a Prince, you know, O racket, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Where you have to like really wedge. I mean, the racket has to stay put.
Yeah.
In
I use it on my knot tie-offs.
Yeah, or not tie-offs. And so you have that. Or you could have a light brake on there where it doesn't let it freely spin, because that's what I really like. Because sometimes, you know, if whether the surface is a little off where you're at, or just, you know, if you let it just, you know, spin around freely, that sometimes it is kind of a pain. So it's nice to have it so it kind of has a soft brake on it too. So
yeah,
I like the braking system. You know, I was watching a video on, I think it's the Pros Pro stringing machine, you know, those electronic ones that they sell at WD Strings and a few other places. I think it's Pro. Is it Pros Pro or? Anyways, there's one machine. It's electronic. It looks kind of decent. It doesn't have a brake on it at all.
Oh.
And you know, somebody was reviewing it and said, "Yeah, that's the one thing I don't like is it doesn't have a brake." But it's like, if it doesn't have a brake at all, that would be.
How could you test the? How could you do a bridge?
Yeah.
You know, how could
You have to like hold the thing or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's possible, but
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to have to. Yeah, so having the brake is, you know, one of those things where you don't really realize how important it is until you don't have it. You know?
So you have to do a bridge or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
so
So you don't have it.
Yeah, exactly, right. And you know, it is a little bulky at times. You know, some parts of the Baiardo are a little bulky. You know, as far as the machine, it's kind of big, and you know, the turntable on the bottom with the metal rail that goes all the way around. You know, it's a little bit, but
if you're not traveling with it, it's perfect.
yeah, if you're not traveling, this is definitely a tougher machine if you're traveling and you're having to pay shipping it everywhere. I would probably go with something different. And I know some of the companies out there are trying to make things a little bit lighter for traveling, making it, you know, for traveling a little bit easier. Because I know on tour, a lot of times, many of the team or, you know, stringers that were stringing for players would use the Star 4, the Babolat Star 4, because it was easy to transport and it was fairly light, and you can set it on a table. You can either put it on its original stand or a table. And that thing was so easy to move around, so nice. You know, I think it just recently, it wasn't until just recently that Federer stringer, you know, Ron, he's been using the Star 4 for many years, you know, on him and Nate, I think Ferguson, when they go around, you know, with Priority 1. I think they recently switched to a different machine, but you know, it's a stable machine. There was one on eBay, you know, initially before because I kind of like Babolat machines, and so I was going to buy it before I got the Baiardo, but you know, it had a lot of problems. It stopped working consistently, and you know, it would just like stop in the middle of a cycle, and he tried to fix it and couldn't, and so he was trying to sell it on eBay for like $2,200, and I'm like, that's a little pricey for a non-working or a semi-working machine. It's just that's a tough one. I mean, I love Babolat Star 4s. You know, I kind of wish I had one again, but you know, that's just, you know, I'm fine. I like the Baiardo. I'm used to it. you know, and it has a lot of great features. And, you know, right when you start it up, it does all its diagnostic, and it goes through each of the checkpoints just to make sure everything is working properly. So before you start stringing, you know that it's going to work. Everything's is set to go, basically.
Yeah, it's a super machine. I'm really happy that I purchased it. I've probably done maybe 40 or 50 rackets so far on it. And it's just, I've absolutely loved this machine. It's been fun to string on. I still have my Gamma Progression ELS as a backup, just in case, you know, things in the stringing world are, you know, sold out all over the place, different parts and different things that, you know, if something goes, I just want to have a backup just in case. So I'm going to keep my Gamma for the time being. But this machine has been quite a thrill to string on. I'm happy I got it, and I still look and see if they're out there, and they're still sold out all over the world. So a lot of the
Every once in a while they'll, you know, they'll get some new ones in and so forth, and they you know, they go pretty quick. And so I think, you know, I think maybe today we can end this video on talking about a few tips related to the stringing machine. The first things that come to mind for me are keeping the rails as smooth as possible.
Yeah.
Because what the worst thing is when you're trying to string a racket and you're trying to move the base around, and it kind of like sticks up on you a little bit, and it's not easy to move. I mean, it's not like it doesn't move at all. It's just it kind of isn't moving smoothly and gliding, and you have to actually use some effort to move it. So what I do first of all is I will take, you know, I talked about this before also, but, you know, what I'll do first of all is I'll take a cloth, right, like a smooth cloth.
Yeah.
And then I'll use some rubbing alcohol, you know, 70% alcohol kind of stuff.
Clean it up.
I'll put a little bit of that. I don't pour it on the machine because I don't want it by accident getting on anything. I'll put some on my cloth, and then I'll rub the rails down as smooth as I can, and clean the clamps, clean all the metallic parts of the machine as well, and, you know, on the mounting system, and then get it as clean as possible so there's no residue and no grunge or anything on there. Because you don't when you're sliding the base all the time back and forth, you don't want it to scratch it all up. Because if you don't clean it, all the stuff in there that gets under there, it'll just start scratching your rails up and stuff. So, you know, keeping that clean. And then in order to get it really smooth, I've been using the Door Ease. I got it's a stick. It's like a wax stick. I mean, you can use all sorts of different stuff.
I use Tri-Flow.
Yeah, and Tri-Flow works. I know a lot of people use this. This seems to work really good. It's just a wax stick, and then I'll just kind of wax the rails, and then I'll wipe them down really smoothly, and then I'll move the rails, move the clamp bases around, and then I'll do it a couple more times, and they just slide nice.
Would you use that also to help you get a string that's stuck trying to get through a grommet? Would you use a little?
You know what I use for that is I have a lip balm. I'll have a little bit of lip balm, and then I'll stick it all in there, and then that's what I use if I'm poking it all through a hole, or if I'm trying to expand something, and so forth. You know, but I really like having. I mean, the biggest thing is keeping those rails clean, keeping the rails smoothly, you know, the clamps moving smoothly on there. That's the most important thing for me.
I take a similar approach to you as far as dabbing the cloth. I don't know if you've seen any of the Baiardo videos on YouTube, but whoever's cleaning those machines is squirty. I mean, it's like a fire hose on on the clamps. He's squirting it right. I just couldn't. Did you see those videos? I just couldn't believe.
You know, I'll have to look for those, and that's why I don't like to pour anything on the machine, because, you know, the rails are open up, so things go inside there, and then you have to clean that all out.
I was just so surprised at how much they were using. It was literally just like taking and dumping it on.
Clamps, you got to be careful with. The only thing I use on the only thing I use on the clamps is a toothbrush with a little bit of alcohol on it. I'll put a little bit on the toothbrush, and then I'll just clean it with the teeth that way.
I'll show you what I use right here. I've got these. So I've got a few different things. I'm just grabbing them here behind me. Just bear with me a second. So I've got the toothbrush for when I open the clamps up. If I'm going to do a deep cleaning, I take it apart, open it up. if I don't feel like doing a deep cleaning, I've got these pipe cleaners, you know, and they come in packs like this. You
Yeah.
take out a pipe cleaner, dip it in the alcohol, and
Yeah.
just kind of
That's,
close
you
it.
know, that's a good idea because the pipe cleaners have a little bit of roughness to it, and it'll like really get into the teeth and clean it and stuff.
Right.
And the reason it's important to clean the teeth is because all of these strings have oils and chemicals on it, and after a while, all that residue stays on the clamps. And if you know, it's a slow thing. At first, you're like, "Oh, it's working fine. It's working fine. It's working fine." Then all of a sudden, your string starts slipping, and you're like, "What's going on?" And
Yeah.
so it's best to just, as a habit, you know, after you've strung, you know, after a period, you know, let's say one day you're stringing 5 or 6 rackets, it's a good idea after that day's over, just take a little alcohol on your toothbrush or whatever and clean out the clamps, keep them clean. You know, that's something that you should be doing every day.
Yeah. I
Even
mean,
sometimes, even, you know, if you're stringing gut, you know, you might even beforehand clean that out a little bit and stuff. I think it's really important to do that. So that's really all I have for today.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think that was good. And one other thing, I know sometimes people forget this, but don't forget to clean the starting clamp also, because you know that can get a little dirty and grimy in this in there too. So you always want to clean that with your regular clamps and stuff. But yeah, take care of your equipment. You know, especially these machines. They're expensive and pricey, and you want them to last. And if you do ever sell them, you want them to be in good shape. So
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for those tips today, Brad. I think that was really helpful, and I think we kind of talked about the machine the whole time, but that was good. It's a great machine. You know, please leave a comment. Give us a question. Be happy to answer questions about stringing machines or anything related to stringing. That's all I have for today, and so we'll see you in the next stream. Thanks.
see you, Pat.